biohacking, performance, mastery, mindset, holistic health. This is a show about getting better every single day. I'm on a mission, guys, to help over 1 million people get healthy and lose weight. Why? Because when you lose weight and get healthy, you have higher self-esteem. You have more self-confidence. And that person goes out and crushes their goal and starts living the highest version of themselves, and then they have way more impact on the world. All right, what's up, guys? Happy Friday for another rendition of Friday Health Hacks. Today, I'm going to cover the top 3 sugars that you should only be eating, honestly. And it's not even about weight loss. It's about health. I'm always about health. I don't think about weight loss in terms of, we're going to lose all this weight and then you're going to be healthy. It's the opposite, guys. You're going to get healthy first and you're going to lose weight. So I'm going to talk about probably what I think based on the research and based on what we see. These are the top 3 sugars that you should probably only be consuming. However, I do have a couple of caveats, a couple of bonuses, and I'm going to talk about some of those. One of those being honey. And so that's not in my top 3, but I am going to talk about that at the end because I think there are some caveats and I think honey might be okay. So we'll talk about that. And then before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that I do one-on-one health coaching, and, we work on things like gut health or weight loss. And the fact of the matter is when you lose weight, you're more confident, you have more self-esteem, and you go out and you crush your goals. And that's what it's all about. So if you're looking to get healthier and happier, shoot me an email, info@joel11coaching, or reach out and DM me at joel11coaching. And I'd love to connect with you guys there and see how I can help you. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go live here on TikTok as well, and some of the other channels. So let's talk about the 3 sugars that you should only eat. And, before we jump into that, let's talk about what we've known before. Is there's a lot of sugars out there like saccharin, sucralose, aspartame. I think we should know by now that, just because they don't raise insulin and they were thought to be healthy, they still have a huge metabolic impact, right? We know there's plenty of good studies suggesting that they wreck the microbiome of the gut. And I've talked a lot about microbiome and why it's so important, because especially when you're thinking about weight loss or just in general, but if you have microbial imbalances, it's going to trigger cravings. It's going to be difficult to lose weight, especially if you have some kind of candida or yeast overgrowth. So this all matters. I think we try to just think about exercise more and eat less, but your microbiome matters. And they've been able to isolate microbiome and certain variants of the microbiome and actually see that, hey, some of these species of the microbiome actually contribute to weight gain, and they actually want to keep you fat. So this matters, right? So if you have dysbiosis, that could lead to blood sugar imbalances, and that's going to lead to an unhealthy metabolism. So a lot of people are consuming these artificially sweetened drinks, right? And that's going to increase dysbiosis. That's going to contribute to diabetes as well. In 2017, in the Journal of Stroke, they released a bombshell paper, and it revealed that the risk of stroke, Alzheimer's, dementia, all of these were dramatically increased with people that were drinking these artificially sweetened beverages. So participants who drank 1 or more artificially sweetened drink per day had almost 3 times the risk of stroke and Alzheimer's disease than those that didn't. So it's important, I think we know about some of these artificial drinks and we think maybe they're healthy. I see even some of the top brands. I've had people, just so you know, I've had people reach out to me, hey, would you sponsor the podcast? I'm sorry, they want to be sponsors on my podcast. And I'm looking at some of the ingredients and I'm like, hey, man, I really like some of your stuff, but you're using sucralose. Like, just come on, man. Like, we're so behind in the times. Like, why are you using sucralose? This is crazy. So, I mean, it just blows my mind. There's other sugar substitutes like xylitol. That comes up a lot. Overall, I don't think xylitol is the worst, but if you have some yeast overgrowth or some dysbiosis, we see that some of these sugar alcohols can actually feed the yeast, and it can be problematic and contribute to more gut issues. So you have to kind of be careful. Xylitol also has been shown to raise uric acid levels. If you want to learn more about uric acid, I did a Weight Loss Wednesday just maybe 3 weeks ago talking about the intricacies of uric acid, how it contributes to gout, weight gain, and people having difficulty losing weight. Another one that comes up is agave syrup. So before I get into the top 3, I just want to mention agave. Agave is terrible. Stop using agave. Okay. It was big in the paleo days because they're like, this is a natural, sugar, but it's highly processed and it contains a lot of fructose. Now, people love to tout fructose because fructose is not, will not spike your insulin. So you're like, oh, you won't spike glucose. So great. It looks great on a CGM. Yeah, but it's going to contribute to a huge amount of uric acid, and fructose forces your body to work really, really hard. And people that have like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, yeah, you probably got some fructose and triglyceride issues. So it lacks a lot of nutrients that you could find in something like honey. Honey would be a way better substitute. So get away from agave. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the top 3 sugars that this is what you want to know about. We're going to talk about the top 3 sugars. I'm going to talk about the first one. The first one is allulose. This is a new one, guys, in the game. Allulose is new and upcoming, but it's got some really good research validating not only is it safe, but it's actually like really, really good. And it resembles similar to fructose, and they're actually calling it a pseudo fructose. It had little or no effect to blood glucose or insulin levels. No surprise there. The body absorbs allulose, but it doesn't metabolize it into glucose. So it's pretty much calorie free. Okay. In humans, what they found is that it has a favorable impact on blood glucose and actually may improve insulin sensitivity. It's been shown to be anti-inflammatory, especially when it comes to adipocytes, which are your fat cells. I find that to be fascinating. And it's actually a good source for inflammatory cytokines that the ones that drive that metabolic syndrome, which we saw all throughout the pandemic, and elevate uric acid. It actually had anti-inflammatory effects. You can find allulose naturally in figs, such as raisins, figs. You can also buy that in the granulated and liquid forms online. A recommended brand, I would say, is RX Sugar. By the way, I'm going to list some brands and stuff, and all of this will be in the show notes. This will be a podcast episode for the users that are watching live. So if you don't catch the whole thing, I'm going to put this all in the show notes, and you can look all that cool stuff up. Okay. So allulose, that's the first one. Number 2, stevia, or there's a handful of people that call it stevia. I don't know who those people are. This is an extract found in South America, right? Zero Cal has about 250 to 300 times more sweetness compared to something like sucrose. But what they found overall is that it didn't really have an increase in glucose levels. So overall, that's been shown to be pretty good. What we've also seen is that the plant actually exhibits antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, hypotensive, antiseptic, diuretic, anti-fertility, and cardiotonic properties. So it's been documented also for helping treat skin diseases such as dermatitis, acne, and eczema. So right now, the research suggests that healthy people with a healthy weight, they can consume stevia daily in order to maintain their weight, and that's been shown in a handful of studies. So it doesn't really have a huge effect on glucose or insulin. That's one that I will see, and a lot of products. And I know some people don't like it. My wife especially can't stand stevia if it's in any product, but I see that in a lot of good brands, and that's kind of what I'll see mostly, and that's a pretty good one. All right, the third one, if you're trying to lose weight or you're just trying to maintain and be in good health, is monk fruit or lohan. Monk fruit, similar, 0 cal, no effect really on blood sugar, derived from a round fruit native plant in Southeast Asia. Kind of looks like a melon. It's been used for centuries, honestly, in Eastern medicine. It was actually used as a cold remedy and a digestive aid. 150 to 200 times sweeter than your average table sugar. So it's unclear right now really what the impact is overall in terms of metabolic health, but this sugar doesn't seem to have a huge impact on glucose levels. So one small study of men found, and then looked at the potential benefits of replacing this monk fruit, of replacing like a sugar sweetened beverage with monk fruit instead, this not the natural sweetener, or stevia. And they found little impact in the 24-hour glucose measures. So popular brands, I think, is Lakanto. I've gravitated to that brand a lot, and that's a pretty tried and true brand. So I would recommend them. Here, now at the very end, let's talk about honey. What about honey? Joel, can I have honey? I think so. Honey, listen, it is high in sugar. The fructose content is about 40%, but 85% of the solids in honey are a combination of dextrose, which is just another name for glucose, and fructose. The nice thing about honey that people don't understand, again, we get so dogmatic and crazy about putting sugar in our diet. You can't have all this, but it includes all these trace minerals and elements, right? Zinc, copper, iron, manganese, chromium, selenium, magnesium, calcium, potassium. It contains things like B vitamins, B2, 3, 4, 5, 6, A and E and C. It also has the flavonoids. Here are the key things. It has flavonoids like quercetin and luteolin. Now, if you remember when I was talking about uric acid about 3 weeks ago, these are some powerful polyphenols and antioxidants that actually help limit uric acid, which is a driver of metabolic disease and health, but also very powerful for blood glucose levels and regulating that. Quercetin was obviously huge in the pandemic. People were talking about using quercetin and zinc in combination to get it into the cells. Quercetin is just a no-brainer. It helps with histamine issues. It was one of my favorite polyphenols. So right now, also honey, it doesn't really appear dangerous in terms of glucose metabolism. The studies are actually showing it improves your insulin response and decrease blood glucose levels. So some are even calling it an anti-diabetic agent. And we know also honey can have some antifungal properties. We see good things that happen in the gut and the gastrointestinal tract. It actually is positively modifying that microbiota, right? So if you're going to do anything, opt for raw honey. One of my favorite honeys is, and I've been using it a lot, especially with my kids who have been under the weather. And when I have to use mixed supplements in for them, I got some crazy like parasite supplements and binders. I use Beekeeper's Natural honey. I really like it. They have a form called B.powered. They're one of the most tried and trusted in terms of purity and sourcing, and they really go the extra mile, and their stuff tastes great. And so you have to be careful with the honey because we're talking about glyphosate next week, and glyphosate is the weed killer Roundup that gets sprayed all over the United States and Canada, everywhere. It's all over the world, but this glyphosate molecule, these pesticides will go into other farms. So even if you're an organic honey farm, it can be tough to limit those levels. Beekeepers Naturals does a really, really good job, and they understand this. And so they like go the extra mile. So I really like them. Their product is great. It's called B.powered, and I'll put the link in the show notes. But honey is great, guys. You could even use maple syrup, and you just have to change. You have to be careful with the amounts. We just can't overdo these things. I think maple syrup's great too. So if anyone's going to ask me what my thoughts are on maple syrup, I think it's great. And actually, someone's online asking me a question. Hey, what do you think of Manuka honey, Kim? Great question. And I didn't even see this question until the very end. So, and I just happened to talk about honey, right? I think Manuka honey is great. Tied in with the Beekeeper's Naturals. Theirs is a little bit different. Manuka has been shown, obviously, for the antifungal effects and for things, like yeast infections and stuff like that. I mean, I think it's fantastic. I think honey is underrated in terms of what it can do. So I think Manuka honey is great. We started buying Manuka honey many, many years ago when I started learning more about its antifungal properties, and we started using that just with our kids and stuff. And then I use it a lot less now. And what's the reason? Why do I use it less? Well, one, my kids started getting really used to just getting Manuka honey all the time, and so that was a problem. I had to like wean them off. Like, I want Manuka, but and then it's hard because there's so many different grades of Manuka honey, and you have to like look at the certain grades because it doesn't meet a certain grade. The polyphenol content or the antioxidant properties that are living within the Manuka honey, it doesn't seem, if you don't get a certain amount, then it doesn't seem to move the needle enough. So then you have to get a higher grade, and then it becomes more expensive. The nice thing, I mean, they even were selling Manuka honey at Costco. So I know the brand, it's not bad. I mean, I'd say that's definitely a good enough brand. And Kim's saying it helps her allergies a lot. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great to hear. I mean, and you can see why it might even do that just because of some of the antifungal effects that is seen in honey. And again, I think it's interesting. Kim said, hey, it helps with my allergies. Well, a lot of times with allergies, two things, guys, let's just talk about allergies really quickly. With allergies, I hear this all the time with people. Oh, it's allergy season. I never believe that, by the way. I don't ever think in my head. First of all, there's a thought in your head that thinks it's gonna be allergy. And guys, I get it. Like, I don't want to sound too woo-woo here, and you're gonna say, yeah, but you don't understand. If you have allergies, we can't always blame the seasons and the beginnings of time, because why do other people not have allergies? Are you just that special? The bottom line is I don't have allergies, and it's not that I'm special, but it's that I'm just probably less toxic in some way. That's it. My body's different than yours. But here's the thing with allergies. I just want to say two big things. One is probably histamine issues, or the other one is there's an imbalance in the Th1, Th2 system of the immune system. These are the two arms of the immune system. And if one is imbalanced and tipped over to the other edge, then you might feel this allergic response. Your body is going to be giving off a lot more histamine. So we were talking about it. What does honey have in it? Also, a lot quercetin, and quercetin is a powerful regulator of histamine, along with some other components that I might use, and I've seen used, and I've used with clients, and it works really, really well. So that's probably why you're getting some good relief, and good. I'm glad you are. That's amazing, especially if you have the ability, you know how to handle it. That's amazing. And so, yeah. And of course, we always talk about all health starting in the gut, and honey has a lot of good properties that are going to help with that gut and the microbiota in the gut. So no surprise there. That's awesome. Keep doing your honey then. Yeah, I think Manuka honey is good. I've done a lot less Manuka, and I've gone more to like the B.powered by Beekeepers Natural. So I'm gonna have to get her on the podcast. She's an amazing force in the wellness world, and she's got some good stuff. So, all right, guys, that's it. I'm over my time already. Thanks, Kim, for the question. That's amazing. This is why I do these lives, is so that hopefully there's people out there and they have the chance to interact. And this is what I love to do. And I want to do more of this. And so spread the word. If you know people and that they can get a lot out of this, share this podcast with people. This is what it's all about. I got into podcasts many years ago, and it really transformed my life and my health. And I always thought, man, there's so many people I know around me that don't know about this information. I'm like, I want to start a podcast, because I was connecting with all these health practitioners at the time in San Francisco, and nobody knew these people. And I was getting my kids better naturally and doing all these things. And how do I share this information? So I wanted to create a podcast where I could do the same with not only the quote unquote famous people that come out with books and all that great stuff. That's fine. But what about the other practitioners that maybe people don't know about, but that are getting just as good results, but they don't have a book or something? And I always wanted to share that information, and then just share whatever I've learned and what's worked in our family's life. So this is great. Share it with anybody you know. And that's it for this Health Hack Friday. Tune in next week. Got a lot of cool things happening. Really excited. I got an amazing podcast with Dr. Stephanie Seneff on glyphosate that's going to drop, and it's going to blow the lids, especially after we just heard about this whole EPA issue with glyphosate. And if you haven't heard, you got to tune in the news. I'll talk about that. Also, I should say the last thing, if you're still watching, I just started a newsletter. So if you go to joelevancoaching.com, you can sign up for the newsletter. I promise I'm not going to spam you guys. I know what it's like to get so many emails and from these companies, and it drives me nuts. So I'll be sending out just a once a week email newsletter, and just talking about some of my thoughts and what's transpired over the week, and just kind of a recap of the podcast. So if there was a podcast you missed, you can always just kind of go down the list and go, oh, that might be interesting, or no, I'll see you later, Joel. Tune in next week. So that'll be things like that, and just what's upcoming. I spoke at a recent breast cancer virtual summit. So like that's going to be in this week's newsletter, just to kind of keep you updated to things, and things like the EPA. Not a lot of people know about that. And so I'll be sharing maybe every now and then current news trends. It just kind of depends on what the week is, but it won't be long. I want it to be a 2-minute or less newsletter. You can just get some quick information and be on your day. All right, guys, happy Friday. Have an amazing 4th of July weekend. So God bless. I'm out. Have an amazing weekend, guys.